0 times 20 is equal to 0. And our x1 is 0, s1 is here, and s2 is 20. So let's move to the last example. Number 3, Tom runs a small bakery and wants to minimize the cost of producing cakes while meeting customer demand. He produces 2 types of cakes, chocolate and vanilla. The cost of producing one chocolate cake is $5, and the cost of producing one vanilla cake is $4. Tom has 10 pounds of flour and 80 pounds of sugar available. The chocolate cake requires 2 pounds of flour and 1 pound of sugar, while a vanilla cake requires 1 pound of flour and 2 pounds of sugar. Tom needs to decide how many chocolate and vanilla cakes to produce to minimize his cost while using up all available ingredients. So, to minimize this, let's get z is equal to 5x1 plus 4x2, where x1 are the chocolate cakes, this is our x1, and x2 is the vanilla. And the 5 and 4 are the costs of the cakes. And this is subject to 2x plus 1, 2x1 plus x2 less than or greater than 100, because is 100 pounds of flour. Here, 2 requires 1 flour, 1 pound. So, x1 plus 2x2 less than or equal to 80. Let's move to the first step. First step, add slack variables S1, this is 1, S1 and S2 to constraints. So these are the constraints. 2x1 plus x2 plus s1 plus 0 s2 is equal to 100. x1 plus 2x2 plus 0 s1 plus s2 is equal to 80. Then this is our objective function. Let's negate this. This will be negative 5x1 negative 4 minus 4x2 plus 0 is equal to 0. So next step is form simplex table. Our CJ here is our objective function, and the x1, this x2, s1, and s2, and also our constants or RHS. And let's put here the negate value of our objective function here. Then second step, the third step, The third step is the pivot column. To find the pivot column, find the maximum negative of objective function. This is the objective function. And our maximum negative is negative 5. So since negative 5 is belong to the x1, so this is already our pivot column. So next step is pivot row. To know the pivot row, we take the least positive ratio of RHS divide x1 columns. So let's divide this to this. So 100 divide 2 is 50, and 80 divide 1 is 80. 0 divide negative. Here. So our pivot column now, pivot row now is this. Because 50 is less than 80. And let's put x1 here. Let's change the s1 here to x1 because our pivot column now is x1, and the value of x1 is 5. Let's always put that after we determine the pivot column and pivot row. The next step is make the pivot value 1 by dividing the row by the pivot value. So this is already our pivot value. To make this 1, should divide it by 2. Here. This is the formula. So 2 divided by 2 is 2. No, 1. Sorry. Here, 1. And let's apply that formula to here. So we get 1, 1 half, 1 half, 0, and 50. So, and this row 2, we should make it 0. This. We should make this 0. So to make a 0, we should subtract it by 1. This is the formula. And let's apply that formula to here. Then we get the 0, 1 half, negative 1 half, 0, and 3,950. So to get the ZJ, let's multiply this CB and XN. 5 times 1 plus 0 times 0 is 5. And 5 times 1 half plus 0 times 1 half is 5 over 2. And so on. And to get the CJ minus ZJ, this is the value of CJ, and this is the value of ZJ. So 5 minus 5 is 0. 4 minus 5 over 2 is 3 over 2. And 0 minus this is negative 5. No. Yes, negative 5. It will be negative 5. So the next step is to check if the CJ minus CJ has a negative value. So there is a negative value. So let's go back to the step 3. Step 3 is positive column. Find the positive column. Let's find the maximum negative of the objective function, which is this, negative 5 over 2. Since negative 5 over 2 is belong to S1, then these values are already our pivot column. And next step is pivot row. To know the pivot row, we take the least positive ratio of RHS over S1 columns. So divide this to here. Sorry. Oh my god, sorry. Sorry about that. Oh my god. Yes. Let's divide this to here. So 50 divide 1 half is 100. 3,950 divide negative 1 half is negative 6. So our pivot row is already 100. So don't forget the S1 and the value. Put it here. The next step is to make the pivot value 1 by dividing the row by the pivot value. So our pivot value here is this 1/2. To make that 1, we use this formula. So 1/2 divided by 1/2 is 1. And let's use this formula to get this. So we have 2, 1, 1, 0, and 100. And the next step is to make this 0. To make that 0, we add 1/2. So let's use this formula as 0, 2. So negative 1/2 plus 1/2 is 0. Let's use this formula to here. And then we have these values. Find the ZJ. Let's multiply the CB to 2 xn. 0 times 2 plus 0 times 1 is 0. Yes. Yes. No. Should be 0. Should be 0. 0. This should be 0. 0. Yes, 0. And 0, 5. To get the CJ, 5 minus 0 is 5. Then 4 minus 0 is 4. Then 0 minus 0 is 0 already. And then since 0 here, our CB, then our Z is 0. So therefore, from the final simplex table, we can see that the minimum value of Z is 0 and x1 is 0. S2 is 100 and S1 is 100. S2 is 3,950. So that's all. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening.